brought to you by Knights of Awakening. This is the Labyrinth. I want to thank you all for joining us. Today's topic is one that I guess I've kind of been hitting on here and there recently in different forums and groups that I'm a part of, and it is that energy work is new in magic. Well, yes, and it's something most people won't believe. In fact, it's so ingrained into the modern mystic that most of us forget that there was a time that using energy work was not a part of what we did. Now, when I say modern magic, I mean magic such as is done in the Western methods of practice. These are generally forms of mysticism that come from Europe and then by extension the United States. And in those older systems, energy work wasn't mentioned all that much. These older systems of magic, such as the Goetia, and old forms of demonology, and even Enochian high magic, anything pre-Golden Dawn, pre-Crowley, pre-World War II, really didn't rely on a concept of energy. And I'm not saying anything bad about energy. In fact, if you ask me, the core of most magic is energy work. It is the very essence of what drives our ability, and I feel that a strong energy worker can walk into any ritual and do well with it. Whereas one who is simply very well versed in their method, lacking the energy work, will do poorly when moving into other systems and may not even do well in their own. They may lack the ability to manifest. And it's all about manifestation at the end of the day, folks. So, why hit on this? Because many times we ask, well, what is the core of this? What is that? What is true? What is real? What is old? What is fantastic? What is? That's the big question for the modern mystic. We dig for these old texts, and every time we get a hold of them, it looks like field notes. That's right. Your modern manual, written by larger publications or modern mystics who use many methods, invariably has a section on it about energy work. Even my own book, that is still in the editing phase, has a section on it about energy work. In fact, it is so common that people take it for granted in the mystical community. So, I've got my notes, of course, on my other screen. As always, let's look at some of this. Traditional magic. And when I'm referring to traditional magic, I'm referring to Western methodologies, European magics, tribal magics of those areas, and a lot of magics that were heavily influenced by the church during the Reformations. Yes, that's right. We don't know if energy work might not have been used by our ancestors. It is possible. We don't know that that form of magic may not have existed, or that application of that component. That application of that component of magic may not have been used by our ancestors. We don't know that it wasn't. But what we know is that what is recorded invariably relies on chants, rituals, and formulas. You go through the Ars Goetia, you go through any book on demonology, and what your primary function is to call upon an outside force. That's not energy work. You don't draw a whole lot into you. In fact, you call on another outside force to ensure that the second outside force does what you tell it to. This may be the names of God, the names of the archangels, the names of other demons, the names of the planets or planetary seals. But at no point in these older methods do you draw any of these forces in. The closest we may have to drawing something in is the taking of authority as God in the Bornless One invocation, in which the person goes through all of the traits and qualities and powers of God and then says, which is me. Which, I love the Bornless One invocation. The Bornless One invocation, its essence, not the exact duplicate of it, but the core concept within it may be one of the quintessential parts of my practice. I don't use the chant exactly, but I certainly use the idea within it. That may be the closest we have to energy work in the old systems. Otherwise, it's not mentioned, and to the best that I've been able to find, it really doesn't get mentioned a lot until more modern methods, again, from the Golden Dawn, and from Crowley, and such as those that came from that school of thought, who were incorporating methods from Eastern and Western systems. Now with that, traditional magic, again, magic that is going back to what we can know that was recorded, instead of Reconstructionist methods, which, again, rely heavily on Eastern influences or tribal influences from the Native Americans. Instead of those, what we have, what we know of, well, it relied a lot on numerology and a lot on methodology. Stand here, draw this circle there, put this seal there, draw these names there. And we may believe that visualization was a heavy part of this, since most of the demons and angels were given a description, but we don't know that, because at no point does it say visualize this, or even, go into trance. We presume that trance was a heavy part of this, and we don't have a lot of backing for that. Truth is, we don't know that trance was a major part of it. We presume that you were to do the trance until you entered a state of trance. We make that assumption. We don't know. We really have so little to go on with these field note manuals that we had to dig in other more complete systems. Energy work concepts, which, again, I feel are the core of a good mystical practice. I just don't feel they're as ancient in these systems as people like to quote. Energy work comes from more Eastern systems. Systems like Ki and Chi harnessing. Systems that reference prana or kundalini and chakra energy work are more Eastern. And maybe in those systems, what we call energy would have been called vitality or vital force or life force. Regardless of what you would call it, we can still sum it up as energy at that point. And it's important. It's valid. I think for the modern mystic it's necessary. But we like to tie it in. And we like to tell people, well, you need to do this to be practicing. You need to do this strong energy work to practice ritual magic correctly. And I agree. But I agree based on my own results with it. Not because it's classic and traditional and Crowley wrote it down. Well, yeah, Crowley wrote it down. And, 5 generations before him, no one knew what energy work was. At least not for the people that were practicing mysticism as we know it today. Mysticism went through some kind of transformation, especially for the world at large, and thanks to media and publishing, the printing press made such changes to the nature of how the information could be distributed. Thanks to that, well, this connection of energy work to all the other methods became easier. A synthesis was created for our ritual work. The idea of moving into trance became a standard part of the practices. And you get the magic that we have today. You get the methods that we have today. But don't be fooled into thinking that any method you're using that's using trance or energy work is ancient and classic. Oh yeah, that's how they did it back then. We don't know how they did it back then. But according to the field guides that we have available, little pamphlets that are the grimoires of the past, well, they don't say anything about energy work or trance or any of the methods that we use for this day. I find this to be an interesting topic, and it's one I wanted to kind of bring into notice within the population, and I wanted to give my flair on telling you about it, as only I can do in this way, because it does mean something to me. I get tired of all the blowhards who think that their energy work is ancient and this is the best way to do things, just as much as I get tired of people that swear their system of doing the hokey pokey to get a result, and yet they're tying it in with all of these other Eastern methods, is ancient and true and perfect. we have such an elitist community when it comes to mysticism in some ways, and everyone has the true answer. And they're all willing to say it's backed up by 10,000 years of text and research. And the truth is, most of the texts that we have on mysticism are less than 500 years old. And most of the books we have are modern, and they're pretty damn good. Well, not most of them are pretty damn good, but there's a lot of good work out there. It's not wrong to tie energy work in with mysticism. Don't even think I'm saying that. It's not wrong to tie energy methods in with magic. Instead, I think it's vital. It's necessary. But I think instead of saying, well, the old text does it like this, it's time that we start to look at what that old text was. It was either an abridged part of instructions to a greater work, or it was meant for people that already had such a natural inclination that they could make anything work. That rare individual who was that gifted. For us to use it, the modern man, who may not be that gifted, may not have that inclination, certainly doesn't have the rest of whatever that was supposed to be grouped into of other skills learned, we have incorporated. And instead of saying, well, this is old and this is better, and then trying to attach energy work and trance to it and hope no one notices, we are far, far better off to admit, this is modern, this is new. We have advanced the foundations of magic as an art form. And I feel we should take some pride in that. We've come further than our forebears. We know more, we understand more, and we can do more with our magic than they used to be able to. And I feel we should take pride in that. That, I guess, is what this is about. That's my hope for you to take from this. So be proud. Continue to do your energy work. Continue to, as my old slogan was, meditate longer and train harder and gain a better understanding of the mystical forces in play. I want to thank you for your time. I really like little videos like this that hit on a few things and that provide something to you over long and drawn out videos. It's just not my style. I don't like doing 2-hour-long videos or 3-hour-long videos anymore. I'd rather give you something, get you in here, help you understand a few concepts, and get you back out on the street doing it. So, this has been Charles McBride, but before I go, check out our Blog Talk site. Yep, we got Blog Talk back again. Nights of Awakening is on Blog Talk. I may do a show over there. You would have to convince me that many of my fellow mystics wished to be on the radio for me to schedule a time, and that they would all show up. That we could find some amicable way to do this, and then if that were to occur, and we were to have ourselves a grand debate, not argument, discussion, not troll fest, then I might be convinced to host such a radio program with you and bring in some of the great minds that I've met into a Blog Talk radio discussion. But otherwise, right now, a man far better than I is doing his thing at Blog Talk with Knights of Awakening. That's Justin Bain. And he is hitting on the philosophy, and we know people are going to show up for that. And he's hitting on the practice, and we know people are going to show up for that. And the path of knighthood, and I think that's really our core demographic at Knights of Awakening. And I feel that what I'm doing is more of a reach out, but also an add-on to that. And I'm happy with that. I'm glad to be where I'm at. I'm glad to be the Merlin to his Arthur on this. I'm more than happy to fill that role. But if we get enough people that would love to do a live discussion, not shouting match, or debate, not trollfest, then I would be more than willing to take on the role of a radio host again, and don the sacred armor of the Blog Talk announcer, and pull us together for a nice little group get-together. So if anyone's interested in that, hit me up, let me know. I would like to have at least, if we were to go that road, a panel of 3 to 5 outside of myself, so that my throat does not dry out and look as though my beard does. But that's a possibility. So let me know. Hit me up in the comments on that. Hit us up on the Facebook, because I don't always get to see the comments on YouTube. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. The more you do to show us that you love what we're doing, the more we're going to do it. I love you all dearly. All of the positive feedback that I get, it truly warms my heart. It makes this worth doing. And I'm sorry I've been away for a little bit. I've got my job, which is mysticism, and it can be very draining to do magic all day, every day. But it's also important on a day like today where I'm taking a day off to then do something related, but a little bit more mundane, like the making of a video. As always, thank you all, and awaken the night within.